most of you know that I personally take no enjoyment in the fact that I was absolutely right and on point about the disaster that was Ghost of Yotei. In sales, in reviews, in optics, in everything. In fact, I absolutely love it. You know what it is, boys.
What is up, space pirates? This is your admiral, the chronically charismatic Dr. Disaster, and on a long enough timeline, the mainstream media will be forced to admit—
Oh, look at that! It's Assassin's Creed Shadows, the game that is somehow still better perceived than Ghost of Yotei, even though it literally tried to destroy and rewrite Japanese history. That's insane.
facts that are inconvenient for the narratives that they've tried to spin.
Oh, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Here is the latest example. For a while, we have been pointing out that the sales for Assassin's Creed Shadows were sluggish, and that the game was going to lose Ubisoft a shitload of money. The total budget for Shadows—
To be absolutely fair, 2.5 million copies sold for Ghost of Yotei. Don't get me wrong, it's still financially a flop and a disaster. It's not even close, probably, to being a success with everything that we already know. Just having the facial stuff in the game that you use facial recognition software to put it there is already literally probably, I don't know, 10 million in a budget. So it doesn't matter how many copies this sells, it's not gonna sell enough. But the fact that this is actually still outselling Shadows is kind of hilarious.
is estimated to be around $350 to $400 million, which, if you break down the math, means that—
Boys, I don't know who these other analysts are, but they obviously ain't shit compared to me. I told you a year ago, it currently seems that every budget for a AAA game, most likely with very few rare exceptions, for example, the Outer Worlds 2. The Outer Worlds 2, I believe, could be 200 million in budget. But your typical, actual, real AAA game, in the past 2 years, has never been less expensive than 400 million. Most are probably 450 to 500 million.
they would need to sell something in the neighborhood of
And every time we actually get a real glimpse on the budget, I'm kind of proven right, but that's okay. I'm used to it.
7 to 8 million copies just to make their money back. And yet, after over half a year on the market, estimates are that the game is sitting at somewhere around 4 million total sales, meaning there was virtually no way that Ubisoft was—
Assassin's Creed Shadows was most likely budget-wise 900, not 900, but 800 million. Because this was their saving grace. Listen, boys, when everything's going bad and you need a smash-out hit or everything goes even worse, you don't save. You put everything you have into it. So these Hail Mary last resort things, like for example Dragon Age the Veil God and Assassin's Creed Shadows, are gonna be way higher in budget than your typical slop, because these companies are desperate at this point. They are desperate because they need a smash hit. And it's not this time to save, okay? Listen, if you're saving money, you're still going bankrupt at the end of the day and things are going bad. So no company is going to save money when things are looking bad. So the idea that AC Shadows was only 400 million, oh my sweet dear summer child. Oof. Oof.
ever going to recoup all of its money, which means that the people refusing to buy it for being a woke turd did indeed cause a huge dent in the game's sales. But yeah, the media ran with this story here.
I didn't buy Assassin's Creed Shadows not because it was woke. I didn't buy it because it just looked lame at the end of the day. Woke had actually nothing to do with Assassin's Creed Shadows. We can actually ignore everything bad it did. It just looked lame and boring. That's the ultimate sin here.
Where Ubisoft announced that they hit 3 million total players, not sales mind you, but players for Assassin's Creed.
Also, I don't know where these numbers are being got from, but I don't believe Assassin's Creed Shadows has sold 2.5 million copies. I'm not even 100% sure it has broken a 2 million copy margin. I see no reason for it. I look at the AC SteamDB charts and it's flat. That there's nothing. Nothing is showing me that there's more than like 10k sales a month for this game at this point.
Shadows in about a week, ignoring the fact that this would count people who refunded the game on Steam after an hour or so, or people who got free game codes, things like that. But now that they have shifted their energies away, the mainstream media has shifted their energies away from...
You know who shifts energies? Women.
Protecting Assassin's Creed Shadows to now protecting Ghost of Yotei. Now they are prepared to admit, with this shift in their energies, at least tacitly, they are admitting...
This is my favorite thing about this situation. Dr. Disaster's kind of going in a roundabout way explaining this, but this is how the Voka gaming ideologues actually function. It's very simple. Vogue slop comes out, they say it's a success, it's great, blah, blah, blah. A month passes, we have proof that it underperformed and did not make a profit. In fact, it lost a lot of money. Woke people ignore this. Move on to the next project.
That the player count narrative was bullshit as they push this narrative here, that Ghost of Yotei, after 3 weeks, has outpaced the numbers that Assassin's Creed Shadows did in 7 months.
I need you to trust me.
Oh, and keep in mind, Assassin's Creed Shadows was touted as the best-selling, fastest-selling Assassin's Creed game. It was on its way to sell 100 million copies this year.
One last time.
The news is that Alana Analytics, a data analytics firm who monitors the sales of video games, they have just put out more hard sales data for Ghost of Yotei. And what is really interesting is that most of the media is actually ignoring.
Where did they get these hard sales data from, I wonder? Because it should be impossible.
This. They choose to use this.
I'm pretty sure if they had actual sales data, Ubisoft would make the Pinkertons come after them.
Quote here from Matt Piscatella over at Circana, where he said that the game was doing great, but he didn't provide any hard numbers. That is the info that they want to run with, and the reason for that is fairly self-evident.
You're a coward.
Well, the evidence does support that.
Make sure that you hit the red channel.
Boys, like the video right now because there's construction happening currently here and it's annoying. Hype it up on a mobile device because it helps a lot. Thank you, I greatly appreciate it. Don't worry, it's only gonna take like 3 days and then I'm fucking changing all of this shit here. Well, actually, that's not gonna happen in 3 days, but you get the point. I'm changing stuff. I'm gonna make it look professional, okay? No, probably not actually professional, but better, okay? Aesthetics. But like the video right now because it helps out a lot, and thank you for everyone who does so.
So make sure you check on that, and also give me a follow over on X, where my handle is Dr. Disaster1. And if you feel like supporting the channel and helping keep the lights on, consider becoming a member for as little as $5 per month. Anyways, let's take a look at what the people at Alana Analytics are saying about the numbers for Ghost of Yotei. In order to...
I think I remember Alana Analytics. They weren't actually the worst.
To get a full understanding of the narrative that they are trying to spin, we're going to read the Substack article that they put out. It says here, after 7 months on the market, Assassin's Creed Shadows has sold less on PS5, 2.4 million, than Ghost of Yotei did, 2.5 million, in under 3 weeks, showing that this samurai showdown is just about settled. One thing that you should note is that in order to create this spin that Yotei is a huge success, they are comparing this game to Assassin's Creed Shadows, which they also told us was a huge hit, but they are cherry-picking a portion of the data instead of looking at all of the data. They are only looking at the PS5 sales for Assassin's Creed Shadows. Well, no shit that a AAA PlayStation exclusive sold better on that one particular console than another game which was available on Steam and Xbox as well. The question we should be asking here is why in the hell are they not comparing Yotei to Ghost of Tsushima? But we will cover why they aren't in just a minute here. The important thing is to understand how they are framing things and why. Look at the headline of this Substack article. That first part of it was what they want people to take from the article. It proudly points out that Ghost of Yotei outsold Assassin's Creed Shadows. The average normie will see this headline, process that portion of the information, and they will ignore the rest. Meanwhile, the qualifier.
By the way, one thing that can be said about this, it seems like Assassin's Creed Shadows may have actually sold 2 million copies on PlayStation, but that's with PlayStation Plus and all of the things that make it cheap there and for free, pretty much. Because we have gotten a lot of this, and I do not track PlayStation. I barely track Xbox because no one cares about these platforms. At the end of the day, these are not going to be the platforms that make a game successful or not.
That they are only counting PS5 sales is in a subordinate position in the headline. A more honest and responsible way to frame this would be to say that Yotei outsold a...
Now, granted, asking journalists to be what's the word that they consider poisonous? Truthful, yes. Asking them to be truthful is kind of pointless in my opinion, you know?
Assassin's Creed Shadows, but only on the PS5. Anyhow, let's read on. The header here reminds us that Alana Analytics still wants to be friends with Ubisoft as well. After all, there's a reason that Alana is given access to all this sales data in the first place, because they play nice with all of these major studios. But right now, their mission is to spin things for Yotei. So anyhow, it says here, across all platforms, Shadows performed well in isolation, selling just over 4.3 million copies as per our estimates, with 56% on PS5, 26% on...
Yeah, you see this? I don't trust their estimates because it's pretty hard to gauge the estimates on Xbox, and it's even harder to gauge the estimates on PlayStation. Only on PC can we, manage to do it with a certain amount of accuracy most of the time. So I don't trust this at all.
On Xbox and 18% on Steam. However, context matters here. Ubisoft needed a breakout hit to reinvigorate its core franchise. Shadows has instead had a lukewarm sales performance shortly after Ubisoft announced it's putting all its eggs in the Assassin's...
You know why I don't trust these numbers? Actually, I can probably explain it to you pretty easily. AC Shadows SteamDB. Let me switch the screen so you can see it, okay? Gonna switch this. Yeah. Or no, because that sounds gonna repeat. But the idea is simple, right? You have 20% on Steam, and that's 60. That's 60K. And that 60K is probably close to 600 sales. So just just do 600 times 4 and you get your sales, but it doesn't fit, so it doesn't make sense.
And Far Cry shaped baskets. Well, I will say this, Alana is right about one thing. Context does matter. 4.3 million is just a bit over half of what the game has needed to sell in order to start turning a profit. It is roughly what we have been saying that the game was at in terms of sales numbers, but only now will these people admit it, and only in defense of Yotei. But the thing is that I promise you,
No, the numbers don't make sense. I'll explain it probably more properly previously. Seriously, just when I unmute, huh? That's amazing.
that a sales data firm like this will absolutely know the economics of a huge release like Assassin's Creed Shadows, and yet they consistently omit information like the fact that they need to sell a whole lot more copies in order to break even. They omit that because they do not want to be honest about the fact that Ubisoft was counting on more than 8 million people buying this game by now. They were counting on it because Assassin's Creed Shadows, of course,
There is no way that I believe that Ubisoft counted on anything below. Seriously? 10 million first year, 15 million second year.
was the first Assassin's Creed game set in Japan, and everyone expected that it was going to sell like crazy. But it didn't. And the fact that they didn't talk about this, the fact that they want to omit this sort of thing from their analysis, it speaks volumes about how many of us, how many people were turned off by the progressive shit that was plugged into Assassin's Creed Shadows. They don't want to admit that we have any sway over the industry. Meanwhile, they finally get to the sales numbers for Ghost of Yotei in this article. They say here that it has sold 2.5 million copies in 3 weeks, and now we have to circle back around to that question I asked a minute or so ago. Why are they not comparing Yotei to Ghost of Tsushima? Why do they not want to do this?
Because the strong, independent female protagonist did better, you chud.
Well, here's the reason why. Sony put out this tweet back in 2020, right after the release of Tsushima, announcing that the game had sold 2.4 million copies in 3 days. And Yotei has sold about the same, 2.5 million, but they took
Okay, business finance 101. If your old entry was successful, you never expect your next entry to do worse than the old one. Very basic stuff. It never happens in no matter what business.
3 weeks to sell roughly that same amount. And yet, if you look at what Matt Piscatella was saying over at Circana earlier this week, he was trying to tell us that sales between Yotei and Tsushima were basically flat, and the media ran with that. Well, that says an awful lot about the mentality of these jackasses, doesn't it? Circana puts out a nebulous claim where the word
Well, we don't trust journalists because of that. Also, boys, 10 out of 10, that was Dr. Disaster. I'm Minecrafting so hard.